I don't think that not having arts in communities is the answer. I think having more art everywhere so that it doesn't feel like this is a luxury that only certain people have.
There's a big change going on in public art right now where there's more money that would have just gone to straight permanent public art that's getting routed to more social purposes.
Either you sort of focus your attention on things that are broken and need to be fixed, or you focus your attention on things that are working and need to be celebrated. People want to say, so you're going to build a mural, or that's what they think public art is.
The goal was to make sure there's a certain kind of social interaction that's happening that's stimulated by this kind of work going in.
We're using the engagement and the research and the time that we're doing to just expand their understanding of what's possible.
You can design an awesome park, for example, but if you haven't thought about the cultural groups that are actual users of the space and how programmatically they can get engaged over time, you might not have a park that anybody uses.
We place a lot of expectations on the art to solve a lot of different other problems.
If we're all doing our jobs well, we've just created environments and opportunities for social engagement and perhaps some kind of moment of just feeling humanity. And whether the people think of it as art or not is much less important.
So yeah, we met in a restaurant. When I was in school, that's how I paid my bills. I worked at an Italian artisan sandwich shop. And I think that's kind of like the place where I first connected to kind of an immigrant workforce and kept me connected to those issues and thinking about how people in the industry are treated and how mobility is really difficult. We moved to LA in 2010. Right away we noticed that the job market for restaurant work was super saturated. Looking for work was really hard and very competitive. That's kind of how we came to start working with food and to start thinking about what food does for people and how it can help to grow community and to sustain community.
Es que yo soy cocinero y realmente no pensaba yo cocinar no cocinar, sino que ser un cocinero rodeado de artistas.
I came here when I was in 8th grade from South Korea, so going to college came upon me very quickly, so I had to decide what I wanted to study, and my parents, like many other immigrant parents, they wanted me to do either law or medicine. But I met a friend, and I didn't know what she was studying. I just heard what she was taking: anthropology, cultural history, calculus, and like a painting. And I thought, what major are you? And she said architecture.
Brian comes from an architecture background. I come from an environmental science and fine art background. Our work's really site-specific. We don't really have an idea until we go to the site, feel it, experience it, understand who the community is, sort of research around it. I tend to look for like an environmental focus. Brian, you would maybe look at more culture and history, and then we sort of interweave those things together.
What lacks in our practice, in architecture practice, is the ability to explore as much as you would if you're just doing a straight up art project. So I didn't realize how much I liked this process, and I can't wait to have more of these kind of projects.
My comfort zone, I guess, is being a painter, where I really like just having to be in my studio and solve problems by myself. But then there's this other aspect of my career, which is public art. And I've been invited, a few times in the past to do some public artworks. And that brings another part of the story, because you get to work with the community, get them involved.
Art is murals, art is painting, art is theater. How is food art? How is a potluck art? How is a community cookout art? I believe that the whole package is art. The first thing that people jump to, of course, is like, oh, are you gonna make some murals, right? So I always say, I'm not sure. I'm pretty doubtful that I'm gonna make some murals. What I'm more interested in is kind of the choreography of the space and how we can kind of help to play with that. The active relationship building, gathering people together who wouldn't normally gather, the act of cooking together. I think that whole package is art, and it's our art practice. But sometimes it's difficult to articulate, and just seeing if we can just get over the hump of like, staunchly having to say, like, this is art. Sometimes I just want to gloss over that conversation, and I just want to move forward with, like, doing things together.
On this project, I just feel like, this notion of authorship is questioned. There is no singular voice here or mind. It's really about so many people influencing each other, and it's our job to orchestrate and sort through and still keep our personal ambition intact while considering all the other ambitions.
Sometimes when you open an opportunity, there starts to become like different levels of ownership, where some people want to have more ownership, but then suddenly when people become more invested in it, there can be like a feeling of protection. It's like sometimes the process kind of opens up the whole set of opinions and dialogue, both positive and negative. This is the whole part of the public practice, right? This is kind of selfish, but for me it's to get to know communities that I don't necessarily have access to. It's a real honor to be able to do an art piece in a neighborhood or a community that I might not be related to in any way.
My first 2 projects, I was a little nervous because I wasn't sure how dealing with the community was going to affect me, I guess. But no, it's been pretty challenging, but at the same time, it's been pretty rewarding.
The people see the diversity of the park as a huge asset, and they also want to figure out how they can work within that diversity to build things together.
I'm very open to how people will interpret it, use it differently. Some will like it, some won't, so hopefully everyone likes it.
These projects can breed psychosis when you don't have an answer. I don't really believe it's procrastination. That's not what it is. These things are not, they're simmering in your brain nonstop. I think it was good that in the last couple days, a lot of disparate things from all those months have kind of started to find a place to come together.
So my design is going to be basically based on the history of the community in Compton. And also I'm bridging East Rancho Dominguez Park with the museum, the Adobe Museum of the Dominguez family, which is 4 miles away. The project's going to be this painted mural, which the LA Conservation Corps are going to help me paint. They're about 5 or 6 18-year-old kids. It's true that my name is on this, but it's also just not me. There's just a lot of creative people making this happen. And when I come with any problems, they come up with really great solutions. So usually by trusting other people, usually these projects turn out to be better than I expected them to be. At the beginning can be pretty scary, you don't know how to go about a lot of things, but over time you know how to deal with the bullshit and you just don't do it.
Just different iterations of what it can look like and how it engages with the fact that inside the courtyard we have a tree and a piano. So this is basically what we're looking at. We're looking at a trellis system with integrated planters at its base that kind of follow that same contour. But to be honest, I think given our budget and everything that we are really working with, we have numerous other ideas, but I think this is pretty much maxing us out.
I just don't know, I don't see the green stamp of kind of innovation here and real sort of creative nuance. I feel like I could go buy some planters and trellises, and I'm not challenged by this or see anything that's really unique. How are you what makes you proud of this?
This is definitely not something you can go to the store and buy. Every single part is custom.
I'm trying to understand it, and I'm having a hard time kind of experiencing that from the.
I'm trying to get to a point where the concept feels more relevant to you or feels a little bit stronger. Make the space even more inviting and help drive the point home a little bit.
There's numerous things you could do, but just being realistic. I'll admit that there's numerous things that need to be refined in this, but usually they get refined in often they get refined in the process of production.
I would like to talk a little bit about some of the programming and what kinds of things you already track, so that I maybe can just use what you're already tracking and maybe design something else, like a guest book or something else that people can put feedback in and things like that. So I want to make sure what I'm doing fits with the way things are happening here.
Okay. On Tuesday, we have Zumba. On Wednesday, we have a group that's called the 30 and Older group. They come through that office to here.
Oh, okay. So which office, how do they register?
It's the Central Reservation Office.
Central Reservation Office. Okay.
So you're trying to provide yourself a feedback.
Right.
How wouldn't that be better if you did survey cards?
I would create one so it would be specific.
Okay, you want to get one of ours up front?
It would specifically have a question on there, something that would be like, did you know about the artist engagement project here? So that I could have a sense of whether that drives some extra traffic. Because we're trying to create this before picture and then the after picture.
I can provide the information if you can come in and assist.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I only have that one young lady up front, and we have to cover 9 parts with all kinds of reports.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Thank you.
We were very clear that we just didn't want this to be a mural project, that we were open to, landscaping projects, sculpture projects, social practice projects, any and all projects that seem to sort of address this issue of how places are vandalized or why they're vandalized, and then attempting to sort of develop solutions around what we found to be sort of contributing factors to that vandalism. So what I think we tried to do was focus projects on changing people's attitudes and behaviors around a particular place.
So I'm an artist and I work with the Los Angeles County Arts Commission, and part of what I do is work on how to think about public engagement in relationship to civic art projects. We are just hoping to be able to have some conversation with you tonight and get some of your reactions.
I love this sport. It's big and clean and safe.
I love to come to this park to play basketball.
We teach more than just basketball, social skills.
I just like the atmosphere. I like the way people have a good time. It's, never no backbiting.
Ever since I moved here, I love the park. It's like get away from like school and stuff, and they've helped me out a lot. Home away from home.
Baby showers, karate classes here, dance classes here, really multicultural. I've never experienced anything bad since I've been coming here.
Well, again, just thank you so much for your time. We'll just plan to see you back here for sure on the 25th of February.
All right.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah, and I'm with the Los Angeles County Arts Commission in the Civic Art program. I like that pool. You like the pool at the park? Who's this?
I like the park because we get to run around.
Running around. It's good, huh? How about you?
Jayla.
Jayla?
I like about the library is that it's quiet.
It's quiet? Activities like this one? Art? Would you like to do art here?
Activities like this.
Nice,
Community, yes, it is nice.
The librarians are the friendliest people, and they're so nice and courteous, and they make you feel really welcome, and so ever since then we've been coming here.
Okay. I'm really excited because we're going to be able to put a new work inside of the courtyard.
The idea is to make it more like a garden.
So this is kind of an early image, but the idea is there would be vegetation, greenery that would be through the whole space. So one of the things we wanted to get your opinion on is we're thinking about just some different programs that we could do out there. We're also thinking about kind of curating art book carts that could come out, so you could use this like a reading room. Would you ever be interested in helping us choose books to put?
This space could support that. Yeah, please let us know, certain workshops or programming that you might like to see here, or something that you feel like your children would be interested in. For me, it went really well. I never know what to expect when you just go up to somebody and ask them something about art or the artwork, and I felt there was great feedback. People came up with some good ideas of how they might program the space or what they would like to see happening in there. Some ideas that I wouldn't have thought of, things that interest them. I guess I didn't really expect this to happen in the library, to be so active. There's all these little artists running around, and I think the outdoor garden space would be great for this because you can make more noise and mess, and it's not such a precious space as inside. The concept of the living wall, when we saw the space, we all wanted to have a garden there and a living wall, but the building was built in the 60s and the architecture drawings are hand-drawn, and so it's difficult to trace back what's actually happening behind the walls or underneath the courtyards, so that's kind of why it's delayed a little bit. But yeah, I think we're back on track, and it changed the design a little bit, but I think we were happy with
how it changed it, maybe for the better. So it's okay. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it so much that you came to do this.
And I think I learned a lot from the history that I didn't know before, which is why I also wanted to be here with like the rest of them. So I wasn't just leading a tour, but I was also on the tour. It was pretty amazing. So I think it was important to be here to learn the history and why is that place called the East Rancho Dominguez Park. When we started distributing the flyers, I just didn't know what kind of people were RSVP. But I was really happy to hear that they were all like local, many years being in the community, and I think that was like a lot. That was like perfect. Like what do we really know of Compton? It's just really like just gang activity and stuff like that, and then you just kind of start seeing this community, and their stories, and so that's that shape. Yeah, I wanted to include that shape into the park just to bring the connection between this and the park. So I feel like now that more people in the community know where this idea is coming from, now they'll be able to distribute that information to other people in the community, which is why it was important for me to explain to them what I'm doing.
My name is Gloria Lee. I'm one of the artists commissioned by the LA County Arts Commission to do an art project here. We're here to maybe ask you, what kind of project would you like to see and what kind of things you want to do out here?
Can you share with us what a canopy is?
Like over.
Yeah, what are some things you like about the Woodcrest Library?
The intention of the project as a whole is to kind of come up with ways to abate graffiti. We kind of get a lot of graffiti in this area, so we're trying to think of creative ways to make our building space less inviting for people who would like to tag or create graffiti. And so community input was solicited to gather ideas and just visions of how we can improve the edifice of the building and make it more community oriented to curb graffiti. The plaza is generally used as a walkway right now, but we envision it as a space where we can bring library activities outside.
Didn't know what to expect, but everyone's so engaged, and I think at first they didn't know what canopy was, but it was just that word. And then they opened up and they knew exactly what they're doing.
The process today was not typical for something that we normally do, but it was very interesting to see everybody hands-on and the parents engaged and the children engaged. Normally we have very structured art activities where the children come and create something and they see the sample and they recreate the sample. But this was completely different, where it allowed them to use their creativity and allowed them to have input on what they'd like to see in their community.
I've never really had an event or workshop like this, and I think it's a very productive and informative way to design with the community. I mean, they really had stuff to say. I like a bench, I like a shade, I like to see more nature, It's really important. I mean, it's really informing the project. Did you see some of the masterpieces?
My name is Louise Griffin, and we're here at the East Rancho Dominguez Community Park and Senior Center. And we're right now doing the painting portion of Fausto Fernandez's artwork. And we're working with a great crew from the Los Angeles Conservation Corps. So I was brought on to help the fabrication and installation with Fausto currently not in Los Angeles and having a first exterior sculpture piece. I'm here to help take his artwork from the 2D to built exterior sculpture. This is the first part of it, which is the painting, and then the other components are currently being fabricated. So I've been here to help kind of make it from a sketch to a completed piece. What I've seen is that coming into the community and bringing them something that's for them, that they can use and need often, they take care of it and they own it and they love it. So I think when they're involved in the making of, and that your artwork has been informed by their feedback or the things that they value or appreciate about their community, when you bring that into the art and the art reflects that, I think that there's actually pride and ownership by the community for the piece because they were directly a part of its making.
They're laser cutting a sheet of alucobond, which is aluminum sheets with plastic in the middle. It's a sandwich panel. We're just testing to see if the cut quality would be good for us to use where the passerbys might touch. So we tried one with a water jet, and it was leaving really sharp edges, so we couldn't really use that. So this time we're going to use laser cutting to see it yields the right edge smoothness.
You get it, like when you pull the tape back, you see the edge of it?
They cut another sheet for us. We liked it, but that sheet was too thin. So now we got another type of panel or metal, so we'll see if it works. Try a few different settings to get it right. So I don't know, we may leave and come back. I think our biggest hurdle is the lead time for the material. We're fighting the clock.
They're cutting metal right now in the shapes of the entrance of the Dominguez family home. They're images of air balloons. The reason we're using air balloons, it's because California had one of the first air meetup events. I think it was in 1910. It's just an important part of history, so it happened around this area, so I'm using the balloons.
So it really inspired us to think about what a great space this is for you guys, all the children and adults, to do things there. It may be jump roping, but it may also be, it's a nice day out. What if I read out there instead of inside? What if there's a craft day and we made things out there instead of inside? And you can make more noise. No one's gonna say, keep it down, you know? So we thought, let's make something there, but in order for you to be out there, because it's really sunny, right? That's why you don't go out there, you'd rather be inside. We decided to make a structure that protects you from the harsh sun. So we're calling it a canopy or a shade structure. And we asked you all to think about what kind of structure you wanted to design. And many of you said, I want a pond, I want a little park, I want like flowers. And we realized, wow, you guys like natural things. Who likes flowers? Yay. Who likes butterflies? Birds? Insects. Maybe art is also something you can talk about and learn more things about science and nature. So this is what you see when you look through the microscope of the butterfly. Can you believe that? So the shape was interesting. And you know how some spots are white? It's because when the butterfly lands, it kind of rubs off the wing, and these are called scales, like fish scales. They fall off. What?
A caterpillar changes and goes into a chrysalis. Then when it's ready to come out, then the wings start coming out.
It becomes a butterfly, right? Take the shape and use that on our butterfly sculpture. So then next time you come, people look at it and they say, what is that? We can say, oh, that is the butterfly scale. So let's go outside. Thank you. Really good. Really, I didn't know what to expect. I just think that people are hungry for it, you know, to use the library more. And they're proud of this place. And they're so engaged. I mean, we don't have to like come and get them to be engaged. They're already very engaged. I'm happy that we're extending that spirit further out to the plaza and maybe offer another space to have more events, you know. Person building, community building, neighborhood building. I think it's really amazing.
There's been like a lot of moisture. I'm kind of worried about. Oh, it's looking really nice. I have the Los Angeles Conservation Corps is coming out. I think they're all like around high school age. They do all kinds of really amazing community service type work. When we painted these walls, they brought out a crew of 10 teenagers. They did a great job. We don't know who, but one of the kids dipped their fingers into a little bit of the paint and then did some graffiti work in the bathroom. So yeah, there was a little bit of graffiti during the graffiti abatement project. Yeah. Yeah, there was.
Do you want to do it, Nathan, since you have the microphone?
No, I don't think so.
Nathan, there's so much footage already of me talking at these other social engagement events, right? You guys agree? So I'm going to turn the mic to Mr. Nathan. By the way, you know, our practice, I think opposites attract. It's true that we're like sometimes very polar opposites. It is essential and necessary that it had the social engagement aspect built into the process. that paying respect, listening to the community that we're serving. I do think it is a service that we are providing in a way to give form to their voice. When I came here as a 13-year-old straight from Korea, I hardly spoke English. My parents were working. They dropped me off at a county library, and that was my babysitter. So hopefully this canopy can, really facilitate the library's mission.
Yes, this is actually my teacher. So he taught me to screen print. Mr. Johnson enjoys difficult and unusual screen printings. What is unique about Mr. Johnson is that you come to him and you tell him you want a screen print on a tire, and he'll ask you the treads or the wall. Instead of saying, well, that's impossible, he'll figure out a way to do it. And screen printing was a technique that allowed us to get Fausto's artwork onto aluminum that had already been painted. So now these pieces will return to the fabricator and be anti-graffiti coating applied to them. This one has been required a lot of coordination. It's been very intense, and I think that part of that comes from just the amount of different materials and the different parties and acting on behalf of the artist. From something on paper to something that's built in the outdoors that is meant to last for however long is a very long process. So, yeah.
I have to strip all of the white off of this.
All of the panels.
All 7 panels, and then reprint the white. So
the white was slightly off. There's no point going any further. We can see it.
Because the white is not in the right position, we can't get the other 2 colors to register. One down, 6 more to go. Sometimes we make a little money at it, sometimes we don't, and if we don't, we don't. It's not that big a deal.
Well, it is, but
well, I mean, we don't try and lose money on every job we do.
So we're picking up all the scale pieces that they cut out of the stainless steel sheets that go on top of the canopies. 1,500 or something. Each one has to get attached by hand. Hopefully we can get pretty efficient at it. Is that right? 1,500?
It's at least like 2,000.
Oh, it's 2,000?
At least.
Okay.
We'll just go sideways like that.
Is that it? We have to get it done before the end of the year. This is where we start to see it kind of coming together, I think. Yeah, getting ready to weld the base plates on, I think. The 4 big pipes that stick up and hold up the canopies. Filling that big tube with sand, so when they bend it, it doesn't crinkle. So these will be the pieces that kind of cantilever out. They're way bigger than I thought they would be. I think it's going really good. These guys seem to be doing a really good job. They seem to really care about the quality of it. It's a little behind schedule, but
We have these 2 holes that's how these are getting attached to the canopy. Well, we've got like 2,000 something of these scales. A lot.
So right now we are working on the graphic layout for the corrugated panels. These guys are working on transferring that graphic to something that was created in the computer by the artist. So we've printed it out. We're actually doing a projection onto the panel, tracing it on there, and then we're going to going back in and brushing on that graphic by hand. It's a little bit of a tricky operation, just translating the two-dimensional flat graphic onto that three-dimensional corrugated surface. In this case, rather than have us just take these panels and do organic paint drip over the top and see what we end up with, we've actually created a process that will replicate exactly what the artists had wanted to do. They took that drip pattern, put it into the computer, and now we're stenciling that exact pattern back onto these panels. I mean, one of the challenges that we run into when we're doing this type of work is ultimately our desire is to be as accurate as we can to the artist's intention and their vision. The challenge that we're facing on this one is just being under deadline so that everybody ends up happy at the end of the day with getting the artwork installed in conjunction with the building opening.
Yeah, I think the goal is just to reinforce the wall. We put the bolts in the studs, you know.
Yeah.
Tails. So I'm hoping that the kids will, or the young people will enjoy these. We just brought in the plants, some of the plants, and the idea is that we're going to plant this concrete planter. And we have these cables on the wall, so the idea is that you'd have this green area, this little garden. You know, we chose a lot of California native plants and plants that are kind of more playful. And then we have some vines, and the idea is that they'll grow up these trellises. This is the reading garden, or we're calling it Rise and Shine. I think it's the new name for it.
Basically, this is a trellis system for at the back of the planter will be kind of vine plants that will grow up this trellis. All these brackets you see here on the ground, and we'll be able to shortly start hanging the panels. Once we get the panels in place, then we can move the lifts out of the way and start to set the seats. So that's kind of the sequence. But that seems to be shifting every hour, so we'll see how that goes.
This is it. This is the last piece. And then we just got a little touch-up paint work to do, and then that'll be it.
But we gotta start here. It's gonna be going this way. No, they only go on the sides. Who keeps putting the lock on? Stop putting the lock on, please.
9 here.
The dimension's not making sense. Can I see the drawing?
Okay, they aren't cut right then.
I'm not doubting you, I just want to...
Like it.
I think it's this one. That's B2.
I know this one, Balusami, right?
Okay. Are those pills very vicious?
No, not those.
Okay.
You guys will chop these things up.
Right. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Where's that map you had a few minutes ago?
And you can face each other somewhat, but you always kind of have to be a little bit at an angle so that
Right, so yeah, you tighten it. I can do it.
They're putting a lot of tension on the mesh and looping around the perimeter rods and stitching and crimping. So yesterday was really difficult. Well, it was raining. And then this morning getting here was really crazy. So it just tends to, we lose light really early, you know, like at 4:30. Plus the lunch is tomorrow. I think we're gonna move over there. Okay.
Not really. You have to hold on.
We would have finished scaling the current bay, and then we'll just go as late as we can to put the rest of the scales on. So it's tight. It's just a lot more work than we anticipated. And actually, it's over. How many scales?
Over 2,000.
Over 2,000 scales we're trying to put on. So we put more than 1,000 already.
Okay. So let me have my mom fix this. I lost my mom and my dad. Hello, welcome, Welcome once again, everybody. As I wanted to invite the 5 spectacular community cooks up here to the stage. So we have these beautiful embroidered community chef aprons. Now everywhere you go, you can proclaim yourself a community chef. We're gonna dim the lights and we're gonna start playing these beautiful profiles for you, okay?
I wasn't allowed to go alone.
It's very important to have a park, somewhere you can go to and call home.
This is our event to look forward to come here, the Victoria Park. I want my girls to come close to me and know all these things. Why the home cooking is very important to me.
And he's doing the same thing. So it's like been passed through generations, from my grandmother to my mother, from my mother to me.
And I just found out there was just a lot of love that was here at Victoria Park in Carson. They accepted me with open arms when I got here. I just like the way they show love and everything to whoever comes to this gym. I noticed that it takes a village to raise a child, and I see the village is here, so.
I think the way Victoria Park has impacted our family is teaching our kids to help others in participating in events and just helping the community to getting the community involved. That really, this is our second home.
Everywhere we go! Everywhere we go!
It went great. We had a fabulous turnout. The room was packed. We had all 5 community cooks here with their friends and family. The food, bread was absolutely fabulous. It's a very diverse group. And one of the goals was to get all of those folks in the room together, tasting each other's food and conversation and celebration together. So I really feel like in that sense, yes, that goal was like definitely achieved tonight.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I gotta go check it out.
We're at the dedication for the new East Rancho Dominguez Community Center. It's always a surprise. You look at renderings, but you can really never anticipate what it's actually going to look like in real life. And I think it's actually better than I expected it to be. I think the scale is wonderful, the colors are wonderful, and the materials palette works really well with the building. So I think we did a really good job.
And Fausto Fernandez and his collaborator, Louise Griffin, they did a wonderful job. And so this piece is one of the series of initiatives where we are applying arts-based solutions to promote civic engagement. You've got to know your history. Somebody said if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going.
Like he signed it and everything?
Yeah, he totally does.
I guess I'm glad that it's not just about me. I guess I'm glad that it's about the whole community. I feel more confident now. I feel like I have an idea how to go about having to work with other people, because it's like a team effort. I mean, I know that it has my name, but you know, it's always that thing where like I wish everybody's name was on this. Usually the projects on sketches, you don't really know how they're going to be done and finished, but it's been my good experience so far that it always turned better than I expected them to be. And I think that's because we hire a lot of professional people that are really good at what they do, like the fabricators. There's no way that I alone as an artist would have created something like this. We probably worked on this for about a year, but it always feels like a little breakup at the end, because like you are so involved with everybody that it stops, and then everybody goes on to the next project. So.
Trying to talk to everyone who's seeing the artwork for the first time and try to get their feedback. And also we're trying to collect a little bit of demographic information about who they are and how they use the space. In the long run, we're hoping to measure if there's sort of an uptick in usage connected to having the artwork here. And it might be that people think of having more arts and culture activities here, or they're just drawn to the space by the artwork. So we're trying to measure that. And so today we're just trying to engage people in the beginning part of that process.
It's so amazing just to know that we had a little bit of say. We gave our opinion when we went with you guys to the East Rancho over there, and then to actually see it here in our neighborhood. When I would go every day to work, I would see little by little, it coming all together, and it feels really good, to have been part of that.
Bien contenta, feliz. Uy, se me ha.
It has changed my perception about it, because before I might have not want to come, too much towards this area.
Oh, I think it's going to mean a great deal. I think for the first time, people is really going to come, and I think it will unite the African American and the Latino community. I really do. I'm an African American, and I'm the worst critic of my own people. And I find myself looking at my community, and I say to myself, what can I do to make a difference? And this is an example of what you can do to make a difference. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, we can begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm Sarah Delighted, and I'm an artist that's working with the Los Angeles County Arts Commission, and we worked on the new artwork by Fausto Fernandez on the outside of the new building, so we'll be talking about that with you tonight. I'm also here today because part of our goal is to actually also engage you with producing another art and public engagement program now that we're kind of through installation and just excited about that artwork. I'm interested to hear any feedback from you.
When the cars stop at the stoplight, there will be this way, and then I see them looking up, and they're like, is this a museum? Or he created a work that pulls people in off the street.
Because part of what we're trying again to determine is what are some recommendations about some programs that could happen. The bus tour was one, and again for us it was really important that it was an intergenerational group. We value so much that the seniors that are here and the roles you play. But also, what's going to be that next generation of leadership that's going to even be at this association meeting or help build other programs?
Because we do pass out flyers, but it's hard to get them to come over on this side of town.
Because we go out and put flyers on every door. I know I do. And I put flyers out every month, and I don't see one sucker here. So.
We think this has been positive. It very well might grow over time too. But again, part of our goal is just to work with any of you that are interested to come up with something that we think will respond with the artwork, but again, helps us get at this goal of how do we just further express that there are people that really care about this place, and again, want to think about all the different generations actually being here using it productively together.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure if people were going to show up right away. Yeah. The butterfly. Yeah. Yes. Oh,
this is your really, I can only describe having had this opportunity with the word gratitude. So thank you for all your support. And lastly, Sarah, delighted for really teaching our team what it means to engage the public and how to create not just public art, but civic art. So I really walk away knowing what it means to be a citizen. So thank you. And
thank you. I ruined my glasses because of the installation. All scratched up and spray painted, and
I mean, the process was hard but fun.
But at the same time, I think we were somewhat over ambitious. We didn't really realize what we're getting into.
We're like joking at one point, just like every step of, there was no easy part of fabrication. And I don't know if it's the way we designed it or what, but it was just, there was a problem at every step of the way.
with this one, I think the form and the shape, the size, the metaphor, and the meaning, and how this piece relates to the people in this place took precedence, so that the detailing had to kind of make all that stay alive.
Yeah, so. Get us when we can have a glass of wine and...
I'm so proud of you.
If you're as happy as I am to be here today, why don't you just put your hands together and give a big round of applause. We also have Civic Art as a vehicle to transform the library. You ought to say art matters. what was a vacant and underutilized courtyard is now a functional and inspiring space, and please don't leave here today without seeing it for yourself.
But this space just feels so much brighter. Like it feels soft in a way. It feels warm. I just think the paint color choice is amazing. The way it's working with the sunlight, and also again just how it creates this lightness and movement in the room. And the other thing that's really hopeful to me is how much, like, they're just using chairs right now, but there's this other programmatic space, and just even like this, that it works like a performance space into the library. The sliding doors are new. I mean, even just being able to open up and make that kind of permeability between the inside and outside. I just think it's very Southern California to have a space like this that you can, again, be inside and outside simultaneously is a really powerful sense of space to me. I mean, these are really interesting forms. They are somewhere between furniture and architecture. The gold plus the sunlight are really bouncing and making these forms feel super animated. And that's a nice discovery.
They love it. It is.
Love it.
It's so architecture.
It's art and architecture together? Is that what you mean? That's a good observation.
It's perfect. I like it. I want to come here like every day. Ooh.
They have different textures.
So that's a fern?
Yeah, you want to touch it?
I got that.
So you can smell. You smell the difference over here? It's called a gooseneck fern.
What is it? Oh, it kind of
little
feels
berries
like a
that the fern makes.
If I were to use this space, I would probably use it for writing stories.
It's amazing to see it.
You know, a challenge for us was justifying these as graffiti abatement projects, but really, I think what we were trying to do, and you know, you hear us talk a lot about, you know, murals, because the de facto for projects that are public art related and that are attempting to mitigate graffiti are usually mural projects, but this was something altogether different, and we intentionally tried to stray away from that or go the alternate direction. And I think the hypothesis was really that it wasn't necessarily about what the final product was, but the engagement and community's participation and buy-in to what you were doing was actually the most important thing.
So I really think it's important that we all pay taxes, and that tax dollars can go to, like, all of us making artwork right now and making the space. As much as it can go to building a street or building a library or paying for the police or something else, it also can go to art. And for me, when it's infused in spaces that for a lot of people are their everyday spaces, like a library. You know, a lot of these people come to the library several times a week. It's like an extra living room in their life. And so to have art infused in here, to the extent that it can contain history, it can contain imagination about what else is possible yet, it can ask questions. You can just offer a window into some other aspect of living that a person doesn't have naturally by themselves. It can help them see themselves. You know, so the point is I feel like art can help with just growth of a person and a community, and it also just, again, captures the life. It captures the stories and what's important to those people, that place. So to me, investing in public art, it's about getting that kind of feeling of imagination and possibility and acknowledgement embedded into the everyday, as opposed to art being in more isolated spaces like an art museum. I want to have it come out to where people are actually living their lives, where they're making decisions about how they're going to live their life, how they're going to interact with each other. I like that art's right there. How does it affect one of these children over time to spend time in a space like this? That, like, again, this becomes their definition of library, and how that might open up them wanting to read a book or wanting to write stories themselves, because they're in a space that, you know, for me, has at least an opportunity to stimulate imagination. Like, these are the moments I live for, because, like, to see people this engaged with where they are and with each other, and so I think it's just still a big thing to feel safe, to feel, again, like different races and cultures can come together and spend time together, different generations can find a space and still connect. I mean, that's amazing. It's like a library, but it's also a cultural center. It's phenomenal.
We're all people at the end of the day, and you can become part of a community even if you are not from there. I have worked in lots of different neighborhoods, and just being there and getting to know people, I think it engenders a sense of, trust that people need to see that you are there and you're working in their best interest and you have their best interest at heart. Although our toolbox is a creative one, we are artists, we are creatives working in this space. It's really about helping communities reach their dreams and their aspirations and their hopes.